Amanda Jenkins, my colleague Judith Page here. We will be delivering the training today. Just so you've got a little bit of background, I have been with Silvalea for 23 years, and during that time I've gained a lot of understanding of issues regarding slings and suitability. And today's session, we're going to look at some of the solutions for more challenging situations. So we've got a selection of slings, and we'll talk through each type of scenario that we've used these products to help share that with you. But please talk to me if you have any queries, you want me to go back over things, or you've got your own scenarios, then I'm very happy to help. We're not moving and handling advisors, we're purely product specialists. So we'll do things probably the way we do it, and certainly we're using a nice compliant model in an open chair, so it's going to look easier than we know is. So we'll start with a standard sling. So just to start with something less complicated, and then we'll build up. But we have this style. This style of sling is our Universal Deluxe. So it's not the straight leg universal shape, it's got paddles to the leg. And we find this shape that wraps around the femur will help in many situations. So it'll help a wriggler, it will control the body better, particularly with the addition of a hip tape. So I'm going to start with just showing that and explaining the benefits of this particular shape. Because this shape then we can recreate in other fabrics, ones that can be left in for extended periods and things like that. But I'm going to put it on Judith. It's got a divided leg aperture, so we can insert it within a chair. If you're applying it in a chair, it's really important to get the sling down as far as possible to the base of the seat. Don't worry about lining up the top section. Some people think I've got to get the top section level with the shoulders. Forget about that. Ensure you've got the sling as far down as possible and that the leg paddles wrap fully around the femur. So any style, you need to try and get the slings as far down and towards the back of the knee. If the sling's set too far back, straight away you're not going to get enough support and it's going to bite into the groin. So it is really important. I know often it's a struggle to get the slings in if you've got tighter chairs. There are helpful accessories to assist with that. If you've got a slide sheet, the mitts are great. So to slide in, smooth underneath, help if there's some resistance within the chair, either underneath the leg or underneath the chair. So lots of helpful things. Slide sheets particularly, really good. So if you're struggling, there's going to be some sort of accessory that will help. Just to show you that. But this shape sling wraps around the femur and connects with this modesty strap. So it keeps the legs together. And then you've got an outside tape. So the outside tape will pick up the leg from the outside. So it's a really good benefit. I'm just going to hook it up and I will explain that in more detail. Colour coding. So lots of colour coding on the loops. You all right, Jude? Yes. So we'll just go short shoulder, long leg. It's all about working it out, to be honest. When you have a sling, you've chosen the style. You then need to make sure that we've got the right loops and that it's giving you the right optimum pick-up position for your patient. Always check before you go too far that we've got everything attached before we actually hoist. So this is a full body sling. It's going to give Judith a good upright position. And still allow a little bit of access for hygiene transfers. So although it isn't classed as a toilet sling, because of the divided leg, you still can achieve that. So just looking at the leg paddles, these now will fit. This fits fully to the back of Judith's knee, so it's really good support for her. if she was a bit wriggly, the design of this leg, individual paddles on the leg give individual support to those legs. So for someone active, I would suggest we start with this shape. The other thing is this style picks the legs up from the outside here, which is really good to give extra support. If you picture the standard universal sling, it comes between the legs to go up to the hoist. What that can do is, as it pulls through, slightly externally rotate the hip. So for anyone that's got a lot of pain in the hip area, that subtle pull through as it goes up can make a big difference. So this style, the legs pick up from the outside, so it's giving more support, less likely to do that rotation. Hopefully that makes sense, because it's really important when we're dealing with really complex situations. So also, if you've got a wriggler, someone who extends, Jude, if you can extend, because of the individual leg paddles, it won't shoot up into the groin like the standard shape. So that is another benefit for this shape. The addition of a hip tape, we've got a little extra tape here. So the idea of having another pickup at the hip is, if you can imagine you're hoisted, putting a tape there will lift that area, lift the hips, and that will make another big difference to anyone that has got a lot of pain, because it will lift and distribute the weight. So it's going to then spread the weight across and take pressure from behind the knee just by adding this hip tape. They are detachable, and so you can take them off if you don't need them, but you would have to request them. If I just explain, there's a loop on the sling, so you get asked for the hip tape and it'll have a loop. It is a tape like this with a slider. So a slider buckle, hopefully you can see that, with a little tab at the top. We now put a little plastic tab. Older ones would have had a metal D-ring, but that little plastic tab is there, or the D-ring, so that if we extend this fully, we don't lose that top loop. That's why there's something got to go there. But the idea is to set this to pick up simultaneously with the leg paddle. So we have to readjust by lowering Judith down and just setting it. But once we get the right position, it just subtly lifts that hip area. But it's not, I can't, if I put it on loosely, you can see now it's not doing anything. So we need to tighten it, and I'd have to lower Judith down. So you just need to make sure it's simultaneously with the leg. If it's too tight, it's going to force the hips up. So you just need to be mindful. But once you've set the slider, then it's set. But another good thing is, if you've got someone that's got a real curvature, they've got a real scoliosis, and then their wind swept to one side, their hips go off at an angle, adjust the tapes. This thing is perfectly capable of adjusting the tapes. Rather than having someone hanging out the side, you can adjust them slightly just to correct that posture a little bit for a safer transfer, and to save someone actually holding them in. So, you know, that's another option. If Judith was swept, can you twist to the side? The legs will naturally adjust if they have got windswept hips, because of the nature of these sling paddles. They will naturally align, whereas compared to a standard sling, you wouldn't have the support. One leg would be sort of have no leg paddle underneath. So I would say this is a really good general sling for more complex situations: active person, wriggler, someone with scoliosis, curvatures, windswept hips, with a hip tape that you can then, you know, adjust accordingly. I know often you have to be inventive and try and adjust the sling to suit the body shape. Slings are capable, certainly as long as you've thoroughly risk assessed and documented, then, you know, you can use different coloured pickup points if needed. So if you've got someone that's like this, just want to do that. And the idea is perhaps to have a shorter pickup one side. Absolutely fine. So you know the sling is very capable of doing that, as long as you thoroughly work it all out with the team to ensure that you are providing the most appropriate pickup position. Another thing we can add on is if you don't want a full head support, so full head supports can force the head forward, then often a neck roll is enough. So it's a soft padded neck roll that has a slider, and they link through the shoulder tape. That goes through there. Get it through there. And then around the back, so you the nestle in the neck, and then that one attaches to that shoulder tape. So if you've got someone that leans over to the side, you can position it, move it around accordingly. Just take it out. But what it does is nestle there to give nice support rather than having the large full head support that, as I said, can sometimes just force the head forward and not give the comfortable support to the neck. So these are detachable. They're an accessory that will work with most styles. They literally just slide through. They're soft fabric, so quite a good addition for comfort. The other thing we can add on is a chest strap. So this would be fed and fixed to the back, either chest level. So chest level would be chest of a gentleman or under the bust for a lady, or waist. So it would depend on what you require. If you're trying to avoid a peg, then you need to tell us which location. Often pediatric situations, they often have a waist support because it's quite good to help position the sling. So the carers will know we've got the waist support on in the right place. We know everything else will sort itself out. So it's quite a good indication for positioning. But they are just with a little pump click to add on. If you've got someone that's got a bit of movement, maybe that tends to rock, they may feel a bit secure with a strap on. General fabric this is a standard poly, but of course we can do it in mesh. We can also do this style in our in situ range. So the in situ slings are slightly made differently. They're made all in one piece to help avoid and prevent any seams, so that you don't have any obvious potential for pressure. They won't have positioning handles. So, that is available in this style. As a standard, they will come with a head support that has removable bones and head support tapes. So it's an option with a divided leg in this style that will also allow access for hygiene transfers too. So let me check. What are we doing, Alice? Have we got any questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple. So somebody said oh, sorry, I just lost it. Bear with me. They basically said that the screen was buffering. Could you just explain how the hip tape works just quickly again? They didn't see how it was fitted. And somebody has also asked if this is reusable or single patient use disposable. These are all reusable slings that we'll be discussing today.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, no, we won't feature disposable in this session. So just to recap then, the hip tape is a detachable tape. It can be fixed if you prefer. Are you right, Judy? Yes. But it is a slider, a tape like this with a slider buckle. The slider buckle has a little bar or D-ring that will help to keep the loop open. Otherwise, if we extend it fully, it's hard to open that loop up again. So we put a little tab there. But it feeds through and then knocks back on itself like that. And then the idea is to set it pick up the hip area up there and adjust it so the tension is the same as the leg. So it picks up the same as your leg. So it helps to lift that hip. If it's too tight, it will pick the hip up first. And if it's too loose like that, it's not doing anything. So it needs to be set. We need to lower Judith down, check the tension and tighten it up, but just get it set so it goes up together. So it really is, the idea is to lift that hip, help to lift and distribute the weight for anyone that's got pain. So we're all about, solving that pain in the hip, arthritis, osteoporosis, anything like that. So that's the idea of the hip tape. But are we okay, Alice?
Just one more. Can the padded head roll be used with other brands of slings?
That will be down to your risk assessments, absolutely. I'm sure they probably are, but yeah, that's down to you. We wouldn't ever know that. So yes, they probably will. All slings are similar, so I don't see why they wouldn't work. Apart from the legs, maybe. Yeah, the only exception will be a clip hoist with the stilts. Yeah. So just to explain also when we're looking at problems. Now, this is a 2-point spreader bar, it's one bar. And often when you've got someone that's got a lot of pain and they're very hunched, you want to open that out, open the pickup out so that it will then help distribute and take the direction of the pickup outwards. So we do often just sort of suggest that the hoist is a 4-point. Because a 4-point hoist will help take those tapes out and out to prevent that. So for a lot of challenging situations, that's where we would head. Because the success of the sling is a combination of the right style, right size, right fabric, and the right hoist. So it's really important to think about that, particularly for sort of significant issues with pain, is to consider options of spreader bar, and we can help with that. But also the same point with spreader bar widths, you need to ensure you've got one that's as wide as their widest point. So if you've got someone with really painful shoulders, they've had a mastectomy, or they've got real bad arthritis, and you're putting a sling on that's quite narrow, it will do that. Add to the pain. So think about that width. It's really important to check. This is a smaller spreader bar, which suits Judith's width, but there are other ones. We certainly have other ones available, so that we can then address that. So if you've got someone that's more shapely and larger, and everything's going up to a narrow spreader bar, it's just going to really wrap around and squash them in. So that's one thing just to point out. Always check suitable hoist. Are we okay, Alice?
Yeah, all good, Amanda.
Okay, thank you. So just I'll just let June come out of this, so we can just show you the in situ options of this style. Because the in situ option for this style, it's very popular. As I said, this is a standard one. But if I bring in, so the decision to leave a sling in place is difficult because you've got to weigh loads of things up. And certainly it's a team decision. And you've got to work out the balanced decision, balanced care, as to whether there's going to be any issues with leaving a sling in, particularly a divided leg, because then there's going to still be an aperture here. But we've done everything we can to help give you these options. And the divided leg sling will certainly allow a hygiene transfer if needed. But if you're leaving it in, what we've done is we've made it all in one piece, so as smooth as possible. The fabrics have some give in it, so it will wrap around the body, wrap around curvatures and stretch around. So that's how we've carefully sourced these fabrics. Thanks, Judy. We'll just hold back. You know, you've got to think, is it going to cause problems getting the sling in and out? Will there be extra shearing? So, you know, do we want to reduce the handling? Somebody doesn't like the handling, just too stressful. So then leaving a sling is another option. So it's things like that. Pressure is always a question. Will it cause pressure problems? But we make thousands of these over the years, and we haven't had any adverse reports. As long as the sling is the right size, the right fabric, the right fit, it's been applied correctly. Because lots of things can cause pressure. Just even having the foot plate at the wrong angle, it's too high, it's going to cause extra pressure to the ITs. Positioning incorrectly, you know, there's lots of things that can add to that. But if you're using a sling of this shape, then you can ease the leg sections out, and then certainly there'll be minimum underneath. So there's 3 fabrics. So for the in situ, there's 3 fabrics. One of them is, Jude, do you mind holding that? This is superfine. So superfine is a lightweight mesh. It's got a lot of give. It's a nice stretchy fabric. It's very fine. It's unique to Silvalea because it also has inherent coolmax within this fabric. So within the properties of this, you've got an additive of coolmax, which helps to wick away moisture. Often it's inserted into athletes' shirts and things like that. So it helps to pull away the moisture away from the skin. So that's a benefit to the fabric. So if you've got someone with temperature control issues, then this could be an option. The superfine itself has a weight limit of 10 stone, which is 64 kilograms. And that's because it's very stretchy. So what we do for heavier weights, we double layer it. So there'll be a double layer if it's 10 stone and above. But both are superfine with the coolmax in. But actually they will be provided with a mesh bag. I've got a little mesh bag. The superfine only. I'll have one of these mesh bags. It's quite a delicate fabric. You know, it's got to be fine, light, but it needs to be treated quite carefully. So we encourage it to be laundered within a bag like this, or a pillowcase, something like that, avoiding things that will snag so that it doesn't deteriorate the fabric. So that's the superfine single layer, up to 10 stones. Double layer goes up to 220, which is 35 stone. The other third option of fabric is the superfine plus, which is the spacer, the well-known industry fabric. It's thicker. It's a 3-dimensional mesh, but it is thicker, but it will compress down. It's got a little bit more body. It's more robust. So, you know, there's that option. But all of them are a mesh fabric. So they can all be used for bathing as well. So the water will drain through. The Superfine Plus has a weight limit of 220, 35 stone. So hopefully that's not too confusing. If you want to check it, please look at the website. It's very clear on there. It gives you all the fabric spec and all the options per style of what fabrics are available. So that's just for this style. Again, we can add a hip tape. That one's got a provision there for it. The head support has a tape, as I mentioned, that feeds through the shoulder loop to secure, which means you can then, if needed, take out the bones here. If they're too stiff and they bite in, and then because you've got your head support tape, the head support will be supported without the bones. Some people take them out and leave them out. Some people put them in for the transfer if they need something a bit more rigid. They need to be taken out for laundering though. So that's just that. But we do them with or without head support. If you don't need one, then just request it without. No handles. I did mention there's no handles, so there's no, the main body is as smooth as we can make it. So that's this deluxe leg option in those different fabrics.
But this one is more suited to tight molded wheelchairs.
Because it's fine, yeah, because it's a finer fabric. So if you've got a tighter mold, then you know it's less thick for that particular instance. Although a lot of wheelchair clinicians do allow the thicker one when they're doing the measuring, etc. So you know there is options there. Just need to double check. Hopefully that's okay with that particular style, and understanding that shape's good for all those different scenarios we've sort of talked about. How are we
Amanda,
doing?
we have had a question. When would you personally choose a super fine double layer over the super fine plus?
If you like the lighter fabric with the coolmax in, so if you've got someone in a tighter chair, then you know maybe you want the thinner fabric, because even the double layer superfine is thinner than the superfine plus. So it's the nice light fabric with the coolmax in. So it's that decision that you need to check. Was there another one that popped up? Another question or not? Come back if there is. So that's the first style.
We just have one
another
more question. I'm sorry, Mandy. What is the biggest size, please? And do the loops detach?
Okay. So standard slings, if you look on the website, there's data sheets which will show you, and I'll get Alice to show you this in a moment. Then the data sheet will give you the sizing guides for standard styles, standard sizes. And then go from extra small to extra large. And it will give you the dimensions of the sling, the depth and the width, and also the body measurements. So for standard slings and standard proportions, Jude, if you wouldn't mind, the measurements required for an in situ, for example, with a head support, is top of head, crown of the head, not over, crown of the head, follow down. Just let me get that yellow one. It's easier to. What was it? I think it might be easier to see on white clothing. So crown down to base of spine. That's one measurement. Base of spine is knobbly bit here. We can find that top of the bottom, not underneath to the coccyx. So it's literally top of head, the base of spine. So there'll be that measurement. And it's important to ensure that you're measuring in as straight a position as possible, not all hunched out, twisted. You know, if you can get someone in midline, if it's on the bed or in the chair, then it's easier to get a more accurate measurement. Often if they're all twisted and folded, the measurement could be longer. If they come back and open up into the sling, then there could be a difference. And then the shoulder measurement is literally, again, as in a good position as possible, around the shoulders at the widest point, which is a little bit down from the top. And it's just not too tight around the fullness of the shoulders there. So generally, it's those two measurements that are asked for that particular size. And then you can look at the guide to see whether, you know, they fit into a nap standard size. If they're very disproportionate, then we can help with measuring. It may need to be tailored, mix and match the sizes. So certainly, you know, we will help you with that. Don't worry about that. The question on the detachable hip tapes. We did many years ago do a lot of detachable hip tapes, generally detachable tapes. But over the years, it's become more of a safety issue because there's potential for them not to be put on properly. There's a potential for them to get lost. So, you know, it's a decision we made several years ago to have fixed tapes. So they are going to, apart from the hip tapes, so they can be detachable, but generally they will be fixed, always fixed. That's not to say it's never going to happen, but certainly on the whole, they're always fixed now. Are we okay, Alice?
Okay, a couple more questions, Mandy. When measuring, do you follow contours of lordosis or point to point? And then the other one is, apologies if we've already mentioned, but is the superfine in situ sling suitable for toileting? I know you have one with toileting aperture also, just wanted to see if the standard superfine in situ could also be used.
Okay, right, toileting, any sling that's got a divided leg that finishes here, whether it's standard or in situ, there's enough access. So as long as clothing is removed, there's enough access for hygiene transfers. So any divided leg sling, if you look at the images on the website, you can see there's plenty of access for that hygiene transfer. So the style will denote if it's suitable for toileting. If it's an all-in-one sling, like the recline, which we'll show you later, there's no aperture. So of course, then it comes fully underneath the legs. So you can't toilet with that. So regardless of the fabric, it's the style that will denote if you can toilet. So just check by looking at the images, and it's quite clear from that. What was the other question? Sorry, I forgot the other question.
Measuring.
Measuring. Oh, sorry, you meant measuring. Yes, okay. So it's a very good point. If you have someone with significant curvatures, so lordosis, very hollow back, curvatures, if they're fixed in those positions, then yes, we would need to know. But then we would ask for more information. So very significant curvatures like this, we would check underarm to waist each side. So sometimes we would then tailor the sling and put a little bit of elastication one side. But lordosis is always the most tricky because, you know, you've got this big hollow and we've seen really significant, but we would need to know, and we'd work that out with you by using our full tailor-made form, because we need lots of additional measurements. So unless you've tried a standard and it works, then fine. But you know, most of those significant shapes will need something tailored rather than off-the-shelf ones.
We could do any assessment of that one.
But yes, we can link up like this and go through it with you and help you see the situation and help with the measuring. So certainly there's plenty of help for you. Right, okay, we're soldiering on. Another style, just to show you for an active person, a little bit simpler, is the Silvalea. So this is quite a simple shape. It's got the deluxe legs, so wrapping around the femur, picking up from the outside, which we like, individual control from those leg paddles, but it's got a counterbalance strap. So often it's really simple for carers. They've only got to apply the legs and put this tape on. I will put it on Judy to show you. This one comes as standard with a waist support. Again, it's divided legs. We're talking about divided leg slings. They will have a little bit of access for hygiene. This one goes in. There's a waist support in a channel, so positioning there. Who's being very helpful in applying. And the leg sections wrap around each femur, as we've seen with the previous one. This is the Superfine Plus, or the in situ slings tend to have like a slip fit fabric to both sides, which will help get them into tighter chairs and help with the application there. So they've always got that. But they come through, and then you've got an outside tape. For those that have seen, this is slightly different tape, which I will explain in a moment. But it works exactly the same way, colour coded, we go on the green. But if you've only got a 2-point spreader bar like this, and you've got this counterbalance strap, ensure it goes on last, so that you've got the counterbalance that will roll on top if someone has got some movement. But this won't stop movement, it will enable them to move, but controlled in a controlled way. Again, we'll just take up the slack and it will just wrap around you. This is our Silvalea It's called a silver balance because it will, you know, rebalance you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if Judith extends, hopefully you can see this is rolling through and allowing her, you know, keeping her contained within the sling. Thank you. That's very, very good. But you know, it's the leg paddles as before, they're individually wrapping around Jude's leg there, so giving support for a wriggler. So it's a good another option. The only other thing you've got with this is that you can't then reposition to sit up because it's going to provide one pickup position because of the nature of this counterbalance. We can adjust the leg tapes, but certainly it will generally give you quite a reclined position. Simple though, but you know, if you need the upright pickup or the options, then you'd need to have one with loops like we've seen before. But it's just to show you. The one good thing you can do though, if there's two carers, and you take this down slowly, please. So if you've got two carers, Julie's quite reclined at the moment, but up, stop there a minute. So either side, you know, you can help to go down, just pull on the counterbalance strap to sit up. So if you've got somebody pulling either side, just to position, then that's hopefully it will help to get them from that reclined into a more upright positioning them within the chair. Okay. I just thought I'd show you that, but I'll just show you also these tapes. Thanks, Jude. So this thing is provided as standard with what we call our safety slot. So the safety slot tape is it's a clever design and it's a new innovation a few years ago. A streamline. So it's a streamline tape. And it's made all in one piece, but it's got these colour-coded slots. It's positioned on a twisty loop here, which will naturally find the optimum pickup point to prevent non-directional pulling. So these can be provided to our standard in situ slings as well. And they may be neater because they will then fold neatly and tuck away. The other good thing is that they don't tend to get caught in wheels, wheelchairs, hoists, because the loops are not open, hands don't get tangled, and you can just roll over them. So it is an option. You'd have to request them. But again, have a look on the website if you're interested in the safety slot. It's called a silver safety slot to understand the concept. Some people, you know, they're a bit frightened of new things and it looks strange, but actually some people find them very successful in some situations. So just have a look for that.
They're on this one as standard, though.
They are
right,
on
to
this
the
one,
to the back.
On some slings, they're on it as standard. Are we okay, Alice? How are we doing?
Yep, all good, thank you. No questions.
Right, now we'll move on to this is our Continental Easy Access sling. So this is a sling that will give a lot of support. It's made in a structured polyester and it's got padding or foam padding throughout, so it's very firm. So if we're looking at someone that's got quite poor low tone, but we need to have a good sling that will support them and give lots of access for hygiene, then this is an option. It has got the counterbalance strap as well, so an extra strap, and it is very firm. So it's going to be very fitted. So let's just show you on Judith. Now that's the fabric's got a natural sheen, so you can insert it into tight chairs quite easily. And you're only going to the belt line, so that's quite another benefit. We're not going right to the base, so we're going to the belt line here. We're getting that. And then you've got this thoracic section that's going to wrap around the trunk. The idea is going to give a lot of support to the trunk. And then we're crossing it over to the opposite side and feeding in the loop there. So we're going to give support by this thoracic section. You don't want it to overlap, it'd be too big if it does that, so it's just got to sit firmly here. Leg sections, they've got foam in as well, so to get them into tight chairs underneath, as I said, the slidey fabric helps also to get in a tighter chair, and they get crossed over. Sling legs connected, you know, the standard instructions of use will explain a standard application, and they will always encourage you to cross the legs, otherwise the legs will naturally splay. Sometimes that's needed, so you wouldn't cross the legs, but then, you know, you need to establish that, risk assess it, document it, check it, because it will open up the aperture. So you need to be mindful that you'll be quite vulnerable of slipping through if you don't connect the legs together. So we'll just attach the legs. And then the thoracic strap, which has got various options, we'll go on that, we'll go on there. And then, as I said before, the counterbalance straps need to go on last if you've only got a 2-point. That will allow it to flow like it did with the balance. So a third strap. There is a marker on this so that you can position the slider or a guide, but you just need to adjust it depending on what position you need. So as we take up the slack, it's going to wrap around you very firmly. So the scenario is you've got someone that's got quite poor tone, they need a lot of support from the sling, and so this will give that. It's going to wrap totally around her and really fit firmly. So it will tighten up, so you need to be mindful of that. But Judith was to extend, and if you bring your knees up to your chin, you know, we are containing her really well. That's excellent, thank you, Judith. But the access is good. So you can see for a situation like that, we have got a lot of access. So for an active youngster, you know, they're very popular with children, long, lean CPs, you know, really active. They will fit firmly and still allow to carry out hygiene transfer if needed, or general transfer. You know, the benefit is that you can use it for either, but it will fit firmly. It's going to fit firm. You've got to think about this thing is supporting someone with no tone, so it's going to be tight and firm. So if anyone's got any sort of feeling of being restricted or they don't like that firmness, then it may not be suitable. It will fit snug. Again, if you've got anyone that's very shapely, it might bite in. So it will have its limitations, but you know, you need to get your hand in here, so it's, you need to feel there's a bit of room. There's no waist support, so there's room for a peg, but it is a good option. It's a solution for, you know, some situations where you've got a challenge and you need a really good access there. Have we got any questions on that one, Alice?
We just have two questions. Would this be suitable for people with low tone? And do the adjusters on the counterbalance have to be the same on both sides?
Okay, no. So if you think you need to adjust it, again, it's down to you, down to your risk assessment to work that out. You certainly can adjust them asymmetrically, as we've talked about hip tapes, etc. earlier. So absolutely fine. And it will work well with low tone. So Judith just now, if we just take her back up, if she completely relaxes, completely slumps, can you?
Yeah, no,
It's really trying to slump.
because it's so supportive around the trunk.
Yeah,
It's very, very supportive.
but it is firm. The fabric is firm. Everything about it will fit firmly. So you just need to be mindful of that.
And get the measurements right, really.
Measurements essential. There's good measure. Actually, Alice, while we're talking about that, might be a good point to show a data sheet, so you can, everyone can see what we can give you to help with measuring. Are you able to bring up an example that's on the website, please, Alice, and then we can just give you an idea of what there is there. There's loads of information on the website to help. We've tried to fill it full of useful things so that it's there at a glance and you haven't got to then keep requesting it. Have we lost Alice? Okay, while she's finding that, I'll just take this off, Judith, and we'll move on to something else. I've got 2 more styles, if you can bear with me. Hopefully you've got time for that. It's very difficult sometimes to know how long to allow, so I apologise if we're running out of time. But
Mandy, we do have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
yeah, that's fine.
Is this suitable for children with chest plates / braces? Is there a high risk of slipping through the aperture? And also, if someone flexes their knees and hips, would you still consider the easy access, or is there another option that is easy to insert and remove?
Okay, so lots of questions there. Everything is down to a risk assessment, and often you need to try things before you can work that out. We will try our best to get samples to you or get something to you if you need to try something. Sizing is crucial for the easy access, because if it's too large, then yes, you're vulnerable of slipping through. So if it's too big, it's going to fit firm. You're looking at supporting someone, no tone, poor tone. So it's got to fit firmly, and sizing is essential. What was the last question? Sorry, Alice, there was 3 questions then. I've only
Can you repeat the third question?
I've only addressed 2.
The final one was, if someone flexes their knees and hips, would you still consider the easy access?
Yeah, absolutely. Judith did that. She brought her knees up and she still was contained. But then that is down totally to the sizing and the right fit. But it is a really good sling to get it in to tighter chairs and only getting to here. So, you know, there's not many others apart from toileting slings that you can do that with. So that type. If you look on the website later when you've got a chance at the Continental low back, low convenience, same family, same firm, polyester, they will give you other toileting options, but they don't have a head support, but more support than a standard access toilet sling. Yeah, was that another question? No? Okay, right, let's quickly go on.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you. So this now, we're looking at something quite extreme. It is called our Tinkham, the silver Tinkham sling. So this was created for a real extender who escaped out of everything. So it looks very complicated, and ideally it needs to be fitted on a bed. So certainly, you know, need to have a look. I think on website there's more images of that, but we don't have a bed, so I'll have to show you in a chair. But the issue was this youngster used to really extend like this, and he'd twist and he'd just perform and try and get out of products. So we created this, which would help to prevent that by helping to keep his head forward, protract his shoulders and lock his hips in a flex position. So with all these features on the sling, it worked really well. So it looks complicated, but we're looking at the most extreme, which means there's extra tapes to support. So we will try and explain this as best we can. As it's got a divided leg, we can insert it within a chair. And again, we need to get it as low as possible down. Okay, yeah, but it has a trunk section that comes from the edges of the sling. And if you look on the website, it's really clear, the features. So that brings the sling around, and then if they're wearing it, basically, it's wrapped round. So position that at the waist to get it in the right place. So we know that's fitted at the waist. The leg sections come through. And this is, the legs are straight on this style, but they have 2 modesty straps. So we've done everything to connect the legs and bring them together. So there's the modesty across the width and there's a modesty at the top. So we've done that. We've done that. There are 2 sets of hip tapes. So the 2 sets of hip tapes will pick up here. So again, we need to keep them as the tension as tight as we can to help prevent that. So it's adjusting those tapes. And this one towards the knee may be a shorter one. So they may not be symmetrical. So you just need to work that out and adjust them. So 2 hip tapes. Then we have a shoulder tape. This shoulder tape is going to come around the shoulders to help to do that, to help prevent that. There's lots going on. So it is quite complicated. And then finally, there's a head support tape. If we just build it from the bottom up, they're going on the green, I think. So we start with, and these have the slots, the safety slot tapes on, because I think in this situation, you've got lots of dangling loops, and it's a neater shape for that. We can do it with the loops if needed, but certainly this sample has got slots. So I'm doing the leg. The 2 hip tapes are on sliders. They would go on next. Then the shoulders. If we go on the red, it's been really helpful. It's difficult. Often with a real severe situation, you would have several carers, so you know they would be there to help, and that you would be putting it on the bed. But with a bit of luck, it's just giving you an idea. And I will put the head support one on in a moment. Let me just take up the slack so that we can just see how it performs wrapping around Judith. So just to remind you, we've got a leg tape. We've got 2 hip tapes, but I'm just going to check the tension on those. And then we've got a shoulder tape. Okay, good to go?
Yeah.
Let's just have a look. The head one's not attached yet. I've done that on purpose. Take your arm in a minute, please. So just looking from the side, we've got a leg tape in the middle, and we've got these 2 hip tapes here. And then the body of the sling is wrapping around Judith. And we have got full support here. Access, there's still access, so still a hygiene transfer can happen. Now there's a built-in neck roll within this. And what you do is you fit the sling from the lower section up. And often the neck will be slightly lower, which is fine because as the hoist takes up the slack and the fabric stretches, the neck roll will reposition behind the neck. It's built in there. Then the head support tapes, if we want to, we can have it on a very short setting, which will lock Judith's head forward, or we can recline it if we need to. But there's a little pocket here. So a little pocket, which I'll explain. Just attach those, which is easy on this hoist because of the straps. So if Judith was to extend and twist, her head's going in the pocket. If you bring your knees up, you know, she's doing a lot. And you might picture this type of scenario, but it is keeping her within the sling. You get out, but it's exhausted now,
Yes.
but you know, if you can picture this.
of the day.
We have had a lot of success with this. I would have to say though, they're better made, tailor-made, so that we can make them to the body dimensions to give the most effective support. Certainly we had a scenario in New Zealand where they had to keep the person's head in a specific position. Otherwise, if they thrust back, their airways were cut off. And this worked perfectly. They tried and exhausted everywhere, and this was a really good solution for them. So we know, you know, it looks complicated. It is our most challenging to fit, but for those significant situations, we know it's been very successful. So we call it the Silver Tinkham because it was made for a youngster at the Ellen Tinkham's. It's made in the Superfine Plus as well, so it's always made in that spacer fabric because it's quite robust, breathable, and has a bit of movement, and it's a nicer fabric. How are we doing? Any questions?
No, no questions so far, just some great feedback. The sling works really well.
Excellent, that's great to hear. Really, it's good. Right, I'm mindful of the time, and I'm sorry that I've gone on so much, but let me just check. I did have one more style, but I can explain that quite quickly. But Alice, are you able to bring up a data sheet, please, so that I can just show our viewers what's on the website to help them? Wouldn't mind just for a minute.
Of course, do you have a particular sling you want?
And whatever you've got handy, if you've got the deluxe, then that's fine. Thank you for those that have got to leave. I do hope it's been helpful, and please contact us if you need to for any extra help. So this is the Tinkham data sheet. So this will help. This is on the website. It gives you a description. There's lots of helpful images. But if you show the data sheet, please, Alice, which will show you the fitting video, really helpful. This gives you some idea of the sizes that are available as a standard, the shape of the sling and dimensions of the sling. So every product will have one of these sheets to help you initially. Their sling shape, again, sizing of the sling, and body sizing, so stand and where to measure, so you can see there, top of head to base, shoulders. So that's a really useful, all of them will have these useful guides, and of course the instructions to fit, and most of them will have a little fitting video as well now. So there's lots of help for you, particularly this one, which we know needs a lot more explaining. Thanks, Alice. But we talked earlier about an in situ sling that can be left in without an aperture, and I can just bring one in on a different hoist because I've got it here for a bariatric scenario. No, not bariatric, sorry, it's amputee. So you can see it's all in one. It's all in one. Forgive my model. With a pommel here, the pommel strap helps to lift the centre so the legs don't roll in, but it's very smooth. So for an in situ option, you've got this, which we call our recline, in situ recline. It can have a head support, but there's no aperture. So if you're worried about pressure, then look at this style. This style will suit lots of amputee situations. It will suit most scenarios, but probably not really active extenders, windswept hips, because you can't adjust things. So that's why we offer the divided leg deluxe shape for that type of situation. But this is the basic recline, if you look at that one. But we do have a new one, which is a hybrid of that recline, but it has little paddle legs. So this would need to be applied on a leg because there's no aperture. It's going to come around underneath the bottom, so it's very smooth. So the recline and this recline deluxe would need to be applied on the bed. But the recline deluxe does have those paddles. So we know the benefit of a leg paddle, and it'll have them incorporated, but it won't have a toilet aperture now. Go on, green. This sample is without one yellow, yeah, without a head support, but it will have one, and it's got a built-in hip tape. That'll have to go on below. So we'll just put those on, and it will come as standard with the slots. So those in situ slots. But it's a hybrid of the recline. It's quite. This one's reclining, positioned it reclining. But it's got the benefit of those deluxe paddles. So if you've got a wriggler, You want an in situ without the aperture, very smooth here, then it could be an option. So looking at the in situ options on the website, then look at the Recline Deluxe shape for that option there, with or without head support, to give you another solution there. How are we doing, Alice? Are we good? Any questions?
Just about the sling picking somebody up in a 90-degree position. I was just saying this depends on the connections used. We also have a question: can this sling hoist in full recline lying from bed to shower trolley? I've got a couple of others, but I'll let you go first.
Okay, so reclined completely flat, then you'd have to have a good head support and make sure those shoulder tapes will allow that position, so we can make sure. I mean, let me see if we can try this with Judith, although I
no head support on this one.
No, I know, we'll put your neck roll on.
Right.
So if we just extend this to,
Going green.
we're going green,
Okay. What do with the
hip tape can stay. Leave the hip tape off a minute.
okay.
I'm just going to put maybe shorten the leg. We'll do a controlled pickup. And I'll put a neck roll on just to help with Judith so she's not got too much strain. Green, yellow, green.
Right.
So if you're doing that, if you've got to pick someone up completely flat, legs stretched as well, then we look at a stretcher situation. So the stretcher sling, which is on the website, that will do that. But some slings will recline naturally if you swap the loops. Standard short shoulder, long leg will give you a nice 90, but then you'd have to swap it round to get a different pickup. On there.
Mandy, just while you're doing that, we also have the question for the in situ sling: what if the client tends to wiggle or move in their seat? Will the seating material matter? Will it slip off the seat?
It's a really good question, actually. So when you've got an in situ sling, putting it on in the bed or the chair, you do the transfer, lower it into their wheelchair or seating system. It doesn't mean to say you could forget them. Some slings are called in situ all day, leave in. You still have to check for repositioning. They will naturally move. If they're wrigglers, they will move. You've then got to check the sling is repositioned at regular intervals, check for pressure. You just cannot leave it. So if they do wriggle, then you've got to readjust. So readjust the sling either manually or with, using the hoist to help slide it back. So, if they've got a real wriggler, probably the best thing is to take it out. If it's going to get in the right mess and all tangled up, cause extra problems, then really it might be easier to take out. And of course, that's you'll have to establish depending on that individual. Okay. This is going to really throw Judith back.
Yeah.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Very. Yeah.
So, if we have the longer legs, I'm not sure what position you want to do, but you need to play about with it. Slings can do lots of different positions, and certainly they're capable, but always have a head support if you're picking up completely flat like that. Hopefully that's just helps a little bit. Don't damage it. Oh. Was there another question, Alice?
The only other thing to mention is somebody has requested if they can have pockets on the sling. I've explained we don't do these as standard, and it's due to the risk of pressure and also damage to the sling because it's an additional seam. But if you do request these at the time of purchase, you can have them manufactured onto the sling.
So pockets, certainly on a leg section, put a little pocket there, particularly with a slot, that would fold up neatly within a pocket there. And if the leg paddle is just dangling, it's fine. If, however, you put a pocket up the hip, then the potential is that the big bulk there, will that cause a problem? So you just need to be mindful of that. If we put a pocket at the shoulder, the same thing can happen. If the pocket is here and we put the sling tape in there, then you've got this bulk. Is it going to fall in? It's one of those things you need to determine, and we have had problems with bulkiness, so we try and reduce that, but it's possible. Are we good?
All good.
Okay, so finally, before we go, we do have a Sling selector poster, which gives you a thumbnail view of all our products on the website. And it's at a glance type of poster that shows you what we've got. Alice, are you able to bring this up, please? So these are, it's laid out in families of shapes. So for example, the first line is standard shapes, straight leg shapes, and the options you've got. Deluxes, we've seen a couple of deluxes on that line, number 2. So, you know, if you would like this, certainly it's available. We will just send out a questionnaire just for some feedback. It's very valuable to understand your opinion of the session, to make sure we're giving you the right information. So we do appreciate that. But once we've got that, we'll send you the poster if you'd like that. Certainly, you know, it's there. If you've got to pick a range, it's just at a glance you can pick certain styles, so it's quite useful. But thank you very much for your time. I hope it's addressed some things that you need addressing. We do lots of other sessions. Next week we've got a paediatric session featuring, you know, very useful popular paediatric products. We do lots of other ones. So look at the website if you need specific information, or if you've got a group or a team that would like their own session, we're very happy to set that up. Just email customer services and we'll sort that out for you. But big thank you to all of you for attending. Thank you to Alice and to Judith for helping me. It's very much appreciated. But thank you. Thanks very much.